Hello friends, in this video what I am going to tell you about what? First I want to tell you something is that 2 days before I got message on my YouTube channel and a boy, or you can say a faculty member from the University of SRM University, Chennai, India. He told me that he needs the manual, lab manual. You can see over here. It would be so kind of you, ma'am. Will you please provide me the lab manual of engineering mechanics? And here you can see, let me switch off the video. It's actually my video, and you are looking at here that advertisements are going on, and I have successfully completed my 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. After watching this video of the lab practical of engineering mechanics, a man from the University of SRM University, it is located or situated in Chennai, India, and he told me for the lab manual of engineering mechanics. So successfully after a day, I put my experiments of the engineering mechanics manual on my blogspot. You can see here the link, and then I have provided him, and what he told me after that, he really thank you. That was so kind of you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tira. You almost saved a week of my work. And how the things look like that when you help someone in this way and he obliged you like this. So I really appreciate that he really obliged me for working more and providing you more good things. And he said also, yes ma'am, already subscribed, visited the website, your contents are very good. So these kinds of appreciation doesn't matter whether you are earning or not, but sometimes these make you feel that you are the one that who are you helping someone. So I feel so prestige that when people are looking my channel, watching my channel, subscribing it, and watching my videos, and they are getting benefit from my videos and also my blogspot. So a year of hard work, I realized that it will like that. He made my day. So let's have a look. I put the experiments for him. So right now, what I am going to tell you here, I am going to tell you what there is the new thing, not it's OBE based education. Actually, most of the people told me that I have to make video on the OBE completely. So I have decided to make the video on it. So let's have a look. It's a presentation I have prepared for the students and for the faculty members as well. So this is what is outcome based engineering education and why is it necessary. So now you can see over here, it's not what we teach, it's what you learn. Actually, I still remember that when I was studying in my undergraduate, so what happened, mostly teachers prepared the topic according to themselves, and nobody asked to them why, which topics are you teaching. They just have to write it down on the course monitoring sheet that they are teaching this topic today, they are teaching this topic today. But nobody is going to evaluate or assess the things like that as we are doing in the outcome based education system. In the previous education system, mostly teachers are the main, and they decide what they have to teach, and they are not concerned with the student whether they are learning it or not. So right now we are more focused towards the learner. So what we have to say, outcome based engineering education is what? It's not what we teach, it's what you learn. That we are more focused towards the learner's ability. So for example, some students are performing very good in the papers, but some students become so much confused in the paper. So what happen, what are the other criterias on which we have to assess them? Maybe they are having good presentation skills, and they have good command over the topic, but they cannot perform in the exams. So what does it mean by that? It means that they are not able to learn, and they did not learn anything. They learn it, But what is the major factor with that? They are having some sort of confusion and they are having problem in giving papers. So how can we assess them? So there are different methodologies for the assessment in the outcome based education system. So that's why Pakistan Engineering Council adopted this system and emphasized on adopting this education system for the university levels. So let's have a start. In a nutshell, learner centric approach to tertiary education. So obviously, it is prepared by one and only engineer Nahid Musharraf, and you can say engineer Nahid Shazad. So let's have a look on the next slide. And what is it? It's a definition of outcome based education. I have already given you the concept. So, what is outcome based education? Basically, it focuses on the skills and results achieved by the student as the most important aspect of education. Not what we have to do. We have to assess the student in each subject and we have to be very much focused in each semester. And then what we have to do, all the results and all the attainments of the student will be incorporated into the system and this will be assessed at the end of their 4 years. And how it will be assessed? How can we see that what they are doing and what they have learned? And then after that, what we have to do, we have to go into the consultancies where they are working and we have to take survey from the employer. And on that feedback, or you can say on that survey, what we have to emphasize on that, what are the weaknesses they found out in our undergraduate students, and then we have to focus on then we on those areas. So we have to increase and polish or motivate them the students for those for the skills they have to improve themselves. So this is all about outcome based education system. So it is a student centric teaching and learning methodology in which the course delivery assessment are planned to achieve stated objectives and outcomes. So what does it mean by that? We have to plan, teachers have to plan the subject before the start of the semester. They also have to decide it when they have to conduct the assessment and what are the methods of assessment they have to take it during the semester. And at the end of the course, they have to assess the students' course learning outcome, and they have to map those course learning outcome with the program learning outcome. But these all the working the teachers have to do before the start of the semester. So what they have to do, they have to assess the outcome and evaluate it whether students gain the knowledge properly or not. It focuses on measuring student performance. What we have to do, this system majorly primarily focuses on the student performance measurement. And what is that? Outcomes at different levels. For example, we have to assign them different assignments. We have to conduct quizzes as well. Assignments may be based on the complex engineering problem. And in the lab projects, what they have to do, they have to design some sort of projects according to the level of the semesters. So, so this is all about our outcome-based education system. So let's have a look on the next slide. And what is this? This is the differences between traditional education system and OBE system. I have already discussed in the start of this presentation is that what was the traditional education system? Basically, traditional based on inputs, content to teach, and teaching methodology. It was completely based on the nature of the teacher, what teacher wants to teach, but it was not focused on that what students are gaining. So now, based on outcomes, what are the outcomes we are getting, and then we have to increase. We have to change the methodology of teaching, and we have to incorporate IT, you can say science and technology, and we have to make learning easy for the student. And mostly what we are doing in, especially in the online learning management system, we are we are focusing on the active learning system. So that in out OBE system, the student should attain at the end of the each course what is that outcomes. Teaching involves in the traditional education system, teaching involves sharing of knowledge on topics. Obviously teacher was more focused in that system, so obviously he or she is the king or queen of the system. So whatever the topic he wants to share with the students, so he can do it, he or she can do it. But now teaching involves incorporating different activities that require the students to demonstrate their learnings in different ways. For example, they have to they can teacher can tell the students that they have to read that topic properly and understand it, and then they have to present it in the in front of the class. Sometimes they teachers can provide case studies to the student. They have to do it themselves and they have to present it, and through their viva, their class performance, and there are lots of things they have to do it during the semester. So assessment based on marks or grades attained by the students. In the previous system, what was happened, normally assessment based on marks and the grades, GPAs and percentages attained by the students, but now assessment based on attainment of outcomes for each activity. So now we are more focused towards the course learning outcomes, attainment of CLOs and attainment of PLOs. So I will tell you in the next slide as well what are the CLOs and what are the PLOs. Only learning is assessed at the end of the each course. So normally in the traditional education system, sometimes teachers provide quizzes and assignments, but they are own choices. But normally they are assessed at the end of the each course. But in OB, every activity of the student is assessed. For example, they should have some marks for the field visits, assignments, etc. There are all things to be considered for the activities. So in the last traditional education system that does not focus on continuous improvement. So in the traditional education system, they were not based on the continuous improvement system. Continuous improvement system is that, for example, in the previous semester, for example, I got students got a very low percentage in my course. Why is it so? I don't know. I'm not sure. But in that was happened in the traditional education system. For example, I taught strength of material subject in the previous semester, and in that semester, overall percentage was around 70% passing. But in the next semester, it is increased to 80%. So what was the main issue of you can say what are the different strategies I had focused for increasing that percentage. For the example, in the previous semester, for example, I taught shear force and bending moment diagram not in detail. For example, I was not having enough time, and I didn't go well in that topic. And in this semester, what I have done, I have made YouTube videos on that. I have provided many numericals, solved numericals to the students and explain it in different ways. So the percentages increased. But in the traditional education system, we were totally focused on that. Students are not studying. Students are not studying. But we were not focused that whether teacher is making effort in teaching the subject or not. But right now, this is the criteria that we have to improve the system continuously. For example, in the previous semester, if I have done something wrong in any topic, it doesn't mean by that I did not teach it well. It may be like that that topic doesn't get a lot of time to get into detail in that, and different strategies I didn't get it in the previous semester. But in this semester, I got it. For example, I have learned a lot. I have strived for the different strategies to learn that topic to the students, and I went to in the details. So it helped the students to learn it properly. So now I am moving towards the continuous improvement system. So this is the outcome based education. So they will ask you, we have to provide the course analysis report at the end of the semester when the result is out. And what we have to do, we have to give detail why the percentages of the students are less, if they don't whether they don't work hard or you do not provide the proper strategies to the student. And so other things are what involves continuous improvement through feedbacks from alumni. What happened, for example, after pass out, a student went to the market field, they have to do the job. And then what we have to do, we have to take feedbacks or we have to go for the employer survey, and what we will get, for example, we will find different weaknesses in the students from the employer's feedback. Then we have to incorporate in our subject, so we have to plan a different, for example, we have to create or plan different workshops and seminars for the students to increase their presentation skills, communication skills, ethics, professional ethics, project management, and all that. So, this is the continuous improvement system lies in the outcome based education system. So, now I am moving towards the next slide. Hopefully, it is clear to all of you. Let's have a look. Now, the main issue is that why we are going to adopt the Washington Accord. So why we are moving towards the Washington Accord, and it is an international agreement among different bodies for accrediting engineering degree programs. I can't understand what is this. It is too high-fi language. So what we have to do? So it's in a simple state. What I have to tell you in the previous batches, what will happen in the past when the students went to America, England, Australia, Canada, wherever they are going in the past. So what will happen? They have to do the jobs, odd jobs, like they have to work on the petrol pumps, they have to work on the McDonald's, they have to do the sales job, they have to wash the bathrooms and all that, but they can do any professional job over there. So what we have to do for that? So Pakistan Engineering Council, what happened? What they have done for that? They have signed the Washington Accord, and why they have signed the Washington Accord? So according to that period, when if the student will get the OBE level 2, for example, any department of the university will get OBE level 2 outcome based education level 2. So what will happen? So what will happen? And after OBE level 2, students will be able to do the job in their professional according to their professional education. For example, they got the education from Pakistan and they go to England, America, anywhere, so they can do any type of job related to their field. So professional job, they can get it. So it depends on their CV as well, and how they are having their work experience, and what are the attributes they are possessing over there. So these are all things important. But now and onwards, what will happen? Students will be able to do their job according to their professional degree. But in the past, what they have to do, what happened that the foreign countries did not find their education proper, so they want that they have to take education from there, and then they will be able to do white collar jobs. So this is according to the this is all about the Washington Accord, and it is signed in 1989. But now it is signed with Pakistan as well. Now you will be able to do the job in any country according to your professional degree. So let's have a look. Benefits of Washington Accord I have already discussed. So now in this picture you can see the first part, recognized internationally by other signatory countries, increases employment opportunities, it's easier to gain professional recognition abroad. So these are all the things I have already discussed. Now, terminologies used in OBE system: course learning outcomes, program learning outcomes, program educational objectives, graduate attributes. So what are these terminologies in the OBE system? So let's have a look. Course learning outcomes are statements that describe significant and essential learning that learners have achieved and can reliably demonstrate at the end of a course. So these are the CLOs, and this should be designed by the teacher for every course. So students are assessed on the base of CLOs, course learning outcomes. For example, teachers incorporated 4 or 6 topics in the one CLO. So for example, there are 3 CLOs. It can be more than 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. But if the CLOs are distributed among 3 CLOs, so what will happen? A student has to clear all the CLOs, means their course learning outcome should be greater than 50%. If it is less than, so what does it mean by that? The student will not be able to clear the CLO 1, CLO 2, CLO 3, whether in which they got the less than 50%. And this students are assessed at the end of each CLO in terms of quizzes, assignment, anything, or you can say complex engineering problem. Now, PLO, program learning outcomes. Program outcomes are narrower statements describe what students are expected to be able to do by the time of the graduation. There are 12 PLOs defined by the Pakistan Engineering Council, and um, POs are expected to be aligned closely with graduate attributes. So, what happens exactly in it? So, actually, the program outcomes, there are 12 attributes should be possessed by the students after graduating. What are those? First one is the engineering knowledge, second one problem analysis, then design and development of solution, and the fourth one is investigation, modern tools usage, same like that, ethics, project management, and all that. So we will see the sequence as well here. Then what we have to do, program educational objectives. The program educational objectives of a program are the statements that describe the expected achievements of graduates in their career, and also in particular what the graduates are expected to perform and achieve during the first few years after graduation. So program educational objectives is properly, for example, if I'm talking about the civil engineering department. So POs for the particular department will be different, and for the POs for the telecommunication department should be different. So it is according to the program designer who will be the administration, who is the head of the department. So he has to decide it which program educational objectives should be considered or should be designed for that particular program. For example, normally we'll design the program educational objective. For example, if it is three, so first one should be based on the engineering knowledge. Second one promotes the research culture, especially in the engineering fields. Third one should be the lifelong learning. So lifelong learning is what basically you don't stop learning. Normally we will try, for example, if a person cross 60 years, so you can't tell him to do these to learn new things. So sometimes people get stuck and they don't want to learn new things. So in these areas they have to work it out. So what we have to do, we have to promote our students to learn any new thing whenever it comes. So they should not be reluctant for the new stuff. Now the graduate attributes are the qualities, the skills and understandings a university community agrees its students should develop during their time with the institution. The graduate attributes, 12 in numbers, are exemplars of the attributes expected of a graduate from an accredited program. What are those graduate attributes? I will discuss in the next slide. So let's have a look. Vision of the Civil Engineering Department. This is particularly the vision of Sir Syed University Civil Engineering Department. So to strengthen teaching, we have to make teaching strong. We have to learn the topics properly to the students that they will make like it, and they will understand the topic properly. Research, innovation, in civil engineering they should have to do to be more focused towards the research investigation and make new things in that in civil engineering by producing highly competent civil engineers who should be able to deliver professional services. They should possess leadership qualities. They should have leadership qualities focusing on entrepreneurship and contribute towards social and sustainable development of civil engineering society. So what we have to do, sustainable development, what is the terminology entrepreneurship and what is the sustainable development? Entrepreneurship is what? For example, in the past, students were more focused towards the study. They don't know how to do businesses. Normally, the students or graduates were more focused towards doing job. But entrepreneurship helps the students to learn how to start the business. Whether with the smallest amount, they should not be fear, and they should do it with very confidently. Whether they will go with, for example, losses. So obviously they can have losses and profits as well in the business, but in the initial phases, they should have to put that small amount, but after that they will be able to earn more. And the system, what is sustainable development? In the sustainable development system, what we have to do, for example, if you are producing any building, so you should not cut the trees. If you cut the trees, So you should have to provide some area for the garden. So these are all type of those things which are you are providing the sustainable development. For example, if you are producing, if you are constructing the building or market plaza, shopping plaza, so you should have to provide the alternative solutions for the traffic. So these are known as the sustainable development. So next, what is the mission of civil? One more thing I want to discuss with you: what is vision and what is mission. For example, mission is the first step. What you are going to do it right now. Vision is what that vision should be the very beautiful and attractive. You have to achieve it after 4 or 5 years. So vision is that you have to attain it after completing your mission. So you are at the higher step, but for the mission you are at the initial stages, you are working for that. So mission of civil engineering department of SSUET, Sir Syed University, to impart quality education through modern teaching tools and techniques for socio-economic development and meet the future challenges, to prepare graduates to lead and excel as professional and produce practical solutions to the industry through research, innovation, and entrepreneurship. They should be able to take risks. They should have to be able to start their businesses as well, construction industry, construction sector. They have to do innovative things. For example, people are reluctant to use different smart materials which can be used for the construction and that can be environmental friendly, but people are reluctant to use that. For example, research, so we have to test different materials in which we can incorporate smart materials. We can use different materials as well for the construction as well. So these are the mission of the civil engineering department, in which we can develop different modern techniques, modern ways of construction as well. This is purely for civil engineering. So I'm moving towards the next slide. And what is this? These are 3 PEOs and program educational objectives of civil engineering department. The graduates will possess fundamental knowledge of civil engineering with analytical problem solving skills through investigation by using modern tools. For example, students are more focused for the ratification and they just learn the topic, but they don't know how to apply it practically. So they should know it. So, and they can also apply modern techniques as well. They should know how to learn different softwares and different strategies to follow according to the current development of the science and technology. Program educational objectives 2 is the graduates will be able to manage and illustrate effective teamwork, interpersonal and communication skills, and professional growth. One thing I want to tell you here, that when I was doing my master's in 2013, yes, exactly 2013. So what was happened, mostly the graduates of 92, 93 who were working in the industry or civil engineering consultancies. So they were doing masters with me. What was happened? Actually, they were working in the industry, but they don't know how to speak. They know how to construct, how to design, and all that, but their presentation skills, communication skills were missing. So their professional growth got stopped. So they came for attaining the master's degree to do effective communications and learn communication skills and speak. So, program educational objective 3, the graduates will undertake professional practice considering ethical, societal, and environmental application. For example, if you are constructing any building or any town, you are going to plan any town, and you are going, for example, that is the wildlife is over there. So you have, if you are going to destruct that environment, so what are the possible solutions you are providing over there? And if you are going to construct that building over there, that town over there, so what are the environmental hazards you are going to produce it? So you have to construct environmental friendly, you have to use environmental friendly material over there, and you also have to check it that any society will not be affected. So these are all ethical things you have to practice it when you are going to be graduate. So what are Bloom's taxonomy? Bloom's taxonomy is a set of three hierarchical models used to classify educational learning objectives into levels of complexity and specificity. The models were named after Benjamin Bloom, who chaired the committee of educators that devised the taxonomy. Actually, what happened, what Benjamin Bloom did it, he divided the learning stages into different steps. How he did it? First one is the cognitive, second is the psychomotor skills, and the third one is the affective domain. So, how he divided cognitive in different levels and skills in different levels and affective domain in different levels. So, let's have a look. But before that, I want to tell you how can you make your course learning outcomes. So, verb describe the principle used in designing XP. So, what does it mean by that? You have provided the verb for designing the course learning outcome. Second one, orally describe the principle used in designing X. So, verb and condition you have provided in this. And the third one, orally describe the five principles used in designing X, B and C and S. Verb, condition, and standard. So the next, so let's have a look in example in civil engineering. Designing a beam, you design a beam. You are telling to the students that it is a verb. You should have to design a beam. Then design a beam using Microsoft Excel design template. So you provide the condition. What you have to do, you have to design a beam, but using a Microsoft Excel. And the third one is design a beam using Microsoft Excel design template based on BS. What you have provided the code in that. So verb, condition, and standards are also there. So what does it mean by that? Last one is the very good, in which you are providing all the verb, condition, and standard for the course learning outcome. So this is the way to design the course learning outcome CLOs. Now I am moving towards the Bloom's taxonomy, and there are different stages of the Bloom's taxonomy. And somehow it is changed, you can say. And the last one is, second last one is the evaluation, and the last one is the creating. First step is what? Knowledge, and you can say remembering. Knowledge is what? Recall of information, discovery, observation, listing, locating, naming. That is remembering. What? Basic engineering knowledge. For example, different laws, you have to you learn it. Comprehension means you can say understanding. Translating, summarizing, demonstrating, discussing. In the first step, whatever knowledge you got it, you have to understand it. You can be able to summarize it in the second level. Third level, application. You have to apply that knowledge in the particular domain. For example, using and applying knowledge, using problem solving methods, manipulating, designing, or experimenting. So this is all about application. For example, you have learned the formula, and how can you apply that formula in any domain? So that is the third level, application. And after that, analysis, identifying and analyzing pattern. How can you do that? How can you apply that? And after applying that, how can you analyze it? What are the results you are getting it? Organization of your ideas, recognizing trends, so you can sequence it. Then what we have, that it is evaluation. And what is evaluation? Because in the revised Bloom's taxonomy, this is not synthesis, this is evaluation. Assessing theories, comparison of ideas, evaluating outcomes, solving, judging, recommending, rating. Whatever you learn, you apply, you analyze, and then you evaluate it. Which one is better? So you have to move on with the evaluation. Then the last one is the creating. You have to design something new. Synthesis, using old concept to create new ideas. Whatever you read it, you have to develop new ideas on that, on those bases. Design, invention, composing, imagining, inferring, modifying, predicting, combining. These are all creations. So these are the levels, different levels of cognitive domain in which you are learning in different levels. First step is what? Remembering. Second is understanding. Third is apply. Fourth is analysis. Second last one is the evaluation. And the last one is creation. Now I'm moving towards the cognitive domain. Again, it is now, and this is another picture, and the same thing is that I just want to tell you in this as well, because in the previous one, verbs were not there. So I want to tell you the verbs here. First one is, I have already told you what it is: remembering or knowledge. Definition: remembers previously learned material. Comprehension: understanding, grasps the meaning of material, lowest level of understanding. Then uses learning in new and concrete situation, higher level of the understanding. Understand analysis both the content and structure of material, formulates new structures from existing knowledge and skill. So synthesis, you can say it is creation, and it should be the last one. And the second last is evaluation, judges the value of material for a given purpose. So the words you can use, these are written over here, and I will tell you how use it in the paper as well in the next video. Okay, let's have. And what is cognitive domain is thinking, or you can say knowledge. Now the psychomotor domain, doing or skills. It is like an example. If I will take you, for example, you are learning to drive a car, and what you have to do at the first level, you don't know how to drive. So what you have to do at the first step, you just have to see the motor skills, how the other person is driving a car, who is learning you. And in the second step, you are mentally, emotionally, and physically ready to act. You want to do it yourself, but you are not able to do it still right now. In the third step, what you have to do, you try to copy the other one, how he is driving. So you started to drive something. You have to move, for example, you can use the brake as well. You can put the gear, like these things. So in the fourth step, that is the mechanism, performs acts with increasing efficiency, confidence, and proficiency. Now you started to gain confidence and you are starting to drive a car. For example, you are driving a car in a park where not another car is coming over there. Then complete overt response is the fifth one, P5, psychomotor skill. Performs automatically, you are driving a car yourself. Adaptation. Definition, adapts skill sets to meta problem situation. For example, you are driving a car and you saw there is a car coming in front of you. So how can you behave at that way? You have to stop the car. You have to make your car side. You have to drive it smoothly. You have to turn it. So you are the one, you will be able to decide it. Adaptation. Organization creates new patterns for a specific situation. So whatever the situation comes, now you are able to drive it. So these are the psychomotor domains, and it is doing or skills, you can say. And these are the different steps of skills. So normally what happens in the engineering domain, we consider 4 starting psychomotor domains. And the last 3 domains is for the BTech. Normally they are more concerned with the practical applications. So next, have a look, affective domain. Feeling, attitude. Now, for example, if I am teaching you very badly, so obviously you don't want to learn. And if a student behavior is not good in the class, if he is sleeping, so he will not be able to learn. So, and these are the affective domain and the feeling and attitude when you are learning. So the first one is the receiving. Selectively attends to stimuli. If you want to accept the knowledge, you are listening to your teacher, and teacher is trying to make you more focused towards the topic. Responding, response to stimuli. Agree to, you are ready to accept it, what your teacher is saying to you, whatever she is learning you. Valuing, valuing is what attaches value or worth to some things. You want to adopt, behave, how you are behaving in the class. For example, if I will say, uh, if someone is going to the office and he met with an accident with someone, and saw, or you can say, if you saw someone met with an accident, so what you have to do first? Valuing, you want to help him. Organization, what step you want to do first? For example, whether you go to office first or whether you have to bring that person to the hospital. And the finally, internalizing, integrates the value into a value system that controls behavior. Act upon, you are doing. You can justify your behavior, maintain yourself. You have to behave properly, and you have to be very supportive with other. So, and you are listening to your teacher, and you are trying to behave accordingly, and you are very influenced with your teacher's topic. So these are all the steps of the affective domain. So these are should be checked during the semester, and where in different subjects. For example, normally affective domains, maybe you can check it out in the Viva, It is not related to the performance. And affective domain can be for the theoretical subjects as well, in which, for example, communication skills are over their different subjects. So these are all about the three domains of the Bloom's taxonomy. Now there are PLOs, program learning outcomes, defined by the Pakistan Engineering Council, and these are, you can say, the graduate attributes. These should be learned by each and every student. So engineering knowledge, problem analysis, design or development of solution, investigation, modern tools usage, the engineer and society, environmental sustainability, ethics, individual and teamwork, communication, project management, and lifelong learning. I already told you what is engineering knowledge. Problem analysis is what they have to apply it, design or development on the knowledge, and if he analyze it, if he or she analyze it, how can he design or develop the solution for that. Investigation, they have to research it. Modern tools usage, for example, different adoption of new softwares and usage of new equipment as well. Engineer and society, what are the terminologies used for the engineer? For example, if someone is going to build the building and they have to provide the compulsory open space over there, but they have not provided it, so they have to be concerned with that. Environmental sustainability, use the material which is beneficial for the environment and provides low hazard to the environment. Ethics, behavior is very, they have to practice the professional attitude. Individual and teamwork, how students behave individually, how they can work with the assignment individually, how can they they uh, they give their percentage to in the teamwork. Communication skills, how they can communicate with others. Project management, how can they manage the project, how can they manage their courses. For example, some students are they studied 3 courses properly, but other courses are not, so they have to manage it. Lifelong learning, they should be able to learn something new, they always ready to learn new things, and they should not be reluctant for that. So these are all things. Now, assessment and evaluation, processes that identify, collect, use, and prepare data for evaluation of achievement of program outcomes or educational objects. So these are assessment. Assessments can be quizzes, projects, assignments, complex engineering problem, complex engineering activity. These are all these things should be collect from the students on the basis of assessment. Evaluation, what is evaluation process for interpretation of data? That obviously we have to, teachers have to evaluate the data of through they assess the students, evidence from assessment practices that determine the program outcomes are achieved or result in action to improve the program. And then whatever the data they got it, they have to check it out how the result is, how students performed it, and then they have to work it for the improvement of program. Now the rubrics. What are the rubrics? It is a working guide for students and teachers, usually handed out before the assignment begins in order to get students to think about the criteria on which their skills will be judged. So these are the defined path to the students before giving them assignment, project, anything, on which basis they have to be assessed. So the criteria will be given to them before the start of their work. It is a set of categories developed from the performance criteria that define and describe progression toward meeting important components of work being completed and critiqued or assessed. Obviously, now rubrics are already be provided in the laboratory manuals, on which basis they have to be assessed. Now, definition of CEP. What is the definition of CEP and abbreviation of CEP? Complex engineering problem. Engineering problems which cannot be resolved without in-depth engineering knowledge, much of which is at or informed by the forefront of the professional discipline. Culminating in a major design may need a multidisciplinary knowledge and approach, may be faced with multiple resource constraints, involve wide-ranging or conflicting technical, engineering, and other issues. For example, you have to provide the complex engineering problem to your student, but every student work separately, individually, you can say, and their working criteria should be different from each other. They cannot copy it. Their design procedure, their methodology should be different. And in what way? When you will provide the complex engineering problem, it should be like that. It should be designed it accordingly, that should not be any particular solution. So the solution should be decided by the student based on their own knowledge. and it can be conflicting, and it can be different technical or engineering aspects. They have to sort it out themselves. It should not, I think, if their issue, for example, their solution is not provided, so obviously they can do it themselves in any way. So they should not go out from their subject area, but what they have to do, their solutions and their for example, you can say their research skills should be different from each other. Now I'm moving towards the complex engineering problem activities, and you can say characteristics. Complex engineering problems have characteristics WP1 and some or all of WP2 to WP7. So EP1 or EP2 professional competencies. WP1 depth of knowledge required. When they are working with the complex engineering problems, students must have depth of knowledge. Range of conflicting requirements. For example, there are different technical terminologies over there. For example, someone say like that this methodology can be used. Other one say no, it can be this one, and other one say it can be different. So there are wide-ranging conflicting technical engineering and issues as well. Depth of analysis required. Have no obvious solution. Require abstract thinking. Critical thinking is required. Originality in analysis to formulate suitable models. Familiarity of issues involved infrequently encountered issues. Extent of applicable codes beyond codes of practice. Sometimes new things come. For example, I will take the example of COVID-19, because there was no any solution and there was no code behind that, and we are getting the variety of vaccinations for that. So like that, we have lots of problems in the engineering as well. Extent of stakeholder involvement and level of conflicting requirements involve diverse groups of stakeholders with widely varying needs. Interdependence are high level problems including many component parts or sub-problems. And EP1 is consequences have significant consequences in a range of context. Variety of consequences are there. Judgment, require judgment in decision making. So everyone has different judgments for that. So these are all about the complex engineering problem characteristics. Now, PEC accreditation criteria. What are the PEC accreditation criteria? I think it has become 10, but right now I'm just discussing with you. Program educational objective, program learning outcomes, curriculum and learning processes, students, faculty and support staff, facilities and infrastructure, in institutional support and financial resources. Continuous quality improvement is required for the OBE system for PEC accreditation, industrial linkages. And now this is the time to say you thank you for listening me so long, and I am also tired working from the morning. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe me and follow me on at www.nahishazad.blogspot.com. Stay. Bye bye.
Okay, now friends, what you have to do after watching my videos, you should have to subscribe to Engineer Nahish Azad YouTube channel and follow me at www.nahishazad.blogspot.com. Thank you so much for watching my video. Bye bye.